So, you're thinking about doing business in Bangladesh. It's one of South Asia's most exciting markets, for sure. It's got massive potential, but, well, it can also be pretty complex. The big question is, how do you jump in without getting burned? How do you do it smartly? Let's break it down. All right, first things first. Let's just talk about the sheer size of the opportunity here. We're looking at a $450 billion economy. Just let that number sink in. This isn't some emerging market anymore. Bangladesh is a serious player on the world stage. And what's driving that massive number? Well, you've got a huge consumer market of 173 million people, and the economy is growing at a really healthy 4.2%. When you look at those numbers, the potential for investment, for trade, for finding a great partner, it's just off the charts. Okay, but here's the catch. Business in Bangladesh is built on relationships. And while that's a good thing, it can also be tricky. How can you be sure that the company that looks amazing on paper is actually the real deal? How do you sort out the solid partners from the risky bets? And that brings us right to the heart of what we're talking about today: how to spot and navigate those hidden risks before you put any money on the table. Because believe me, what you see on the surface isn't always what you get. This right here, it hits the nail on the head. You can see a beautiful brochure, a slick website, a company that promises you the world. But what's the reality on the ground? Can they actually sell your product? Do they really have the reach they claim? That's a totally different story. And the tool that helps you see that different story, it's called commercial due diligence, or CDD. Basically, think of it as a deep dive investigation to find out if a business opportunity is actually viable in the real world. It's about checking if the business is truly credible. Now, you've probably heard of legal or financial due diligence, right? That's all about checking the paperwork, making sure the numbers from the past add up. But commercial due diligence, that's different. It answers the most important question of all. Can this company actually do what they say they can do? It's not just about the history. It's about whether their entire business model is going to work for you going forward. So what does a real investigation actually look like? What are the key things you need to dig into? Let's lay out the blueprint for proper commercial due diligence in a market like Bangladesh. We're going to split this into two parts. First up, we've got to cover the fundamentals. Just verifying that the company is who they say they are and that their business operations are legitimate and actually work. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. You need to look beyond their official paperwork and find out their actual business profile. Are they visible in the market? Is their product something people in Bangladesh actually want or need? A huge one is their customer base. Are they just relying on one or two big accounts? And maybe most importantly, do they have a real sales team, a real way to get products to market, or is it all just talk? Now for the second part of the blueprint. This is where we go deeper than just operations and start asking the big strategic questions. This is all about figuring out their real strength in the market and, crucially, if they're the right fit for your specific goals. See, this is the stuff you're never going to find in a spreadsheet. What's their actual reputation on the street? What do their customers and suppliers really say about them? Is the management team sharp and, ethical? And at the end of the day, even if the company checks out, does partnering with them actually make sense for your overall strategy? All right, so we know what we need to look for. But how in the world do you actually do it? Let's walk through the step-by-step process for running a really solid commercial due diligence project. It all starts with being disciplined. First, you have to be absolutely clear on what you're trying to decide. Are you picking a distributor, investing in a company? From there, you build out your key questions, you gather all the public data you can find, and you really study the market. Because hey, even a great partner can't succeed in a terrible market. And now for the deep dive. You assess the company's real capabilities. You sit down and interview their management, which tells you so much. And then, this is critical, you have to verify everything they told you. You talk to their customers, their suppliers. You analyze all the risks you've uncovered, and you put it all into a report that gives a clear recommendation. Yes, no, or maybe, but only if we renegotiate these terms. Look, I know this sounds like a ton of work, but the payoff is just massive. This process isn't a cost. It's probably one of the smartest investments you can make when you're moving into a new country. Let me show you why. It's pretty simple, really. When you do your homework, everything that follows gets better. You pick smarter partners. You build a better strategy. You protect your brand from getting tangled up with the wrong people. It gives you so much more leverage when you're negotiating, and it helps you build a partnership that's actually meant to last. And hey, This isn't just theory. Having someone on the ground who really gets the market can make all the difference. That's what turns a potential risk into a really strong, successful business relationship. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Commercial due diligence is not about being suspicious or distrustful. It's just about being professional. It's the disciplined, fact-based approach that separates the big successes from the really expensive failures. And that really leaves us with one final question for you to think about. When you're planning your next big move, what are you building it on? Is it built on hard evidence and a clear-eyed evaluation? Or is it just built on hope? The answer to that question will make all the difference.